Welcome to Success Is Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Portman, serial entrepreneur, author, and podcast host. Whether success for you is more money, time with your family, a healthy, well-balanced life, or freedom, I'm interviewing guests and getting you the advice to make it happen. So join me as we uncomplicate the complicated, help you define success, and give you the strategies to make it happen. Hi, and thank you for joining us today on the Success Is Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Portman. Joining me today is David Dulany. David is the CEO of Tenbound, a research and advisory firm that focuses on sales development in the tech industry. Thank you for joining us today, David.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Phil.
So the title of the podcast, Success Is. So the first question, what does success mean to you, David?
Yeah, I can boil it down to freedom. The freedom to be able to organize your day and work on things that give you more freedom. It feels like having runway ahead of myself and being able to keep that runway going as long as humanly possible. From being in the corporate world for many years and working, at the behest of my overlords, getting into entrepreneurship and being able to create that freedom. Just for me, it's success every day.
So tell me about that, moving from the corporate world to entrepreneurship. What did that, because for me, I remember the exact day, it's like one of those moments where it just ingrained in you. Me walking to my car with a box in my hand saying, this is the last day I'm ever going to work for somebody again in my life. What did your journey look like? Was it smoother, or was it kind of one of those, and then I'm moving on?
Yeah, it was a long journey. And hopefully, for younger listeners, you don't have to have it all figured out, in your 20s or, and beyond, because I've spent a lot of time seeking success and trying to figure out what it was, and just working, to pay the bills, where at the same time it was trying to find what is my passion and what am I put here to do to make a contribution that I can get excited about. It just took forever, and I had to try lots of different things, and finally I figured out at some point, what I was seeking was freedom, and that would be the definition of success. So, to make a long story short, I worked for, like I said, several years in the corporate world. I came up through sales and marketing, first in a sales training company, which is still around, and then I got into the tech industry here in Silicon Valley, and started to really focus in on a certain niche and build a skill in the sales development piece of the tech go-to-market strategy, and spun that out Tenbound, which is a research and advisory firm that focuses on sales development for tech companies, and was able to do that, and going on 6 years now, which has been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So sales and marketing, those are two areas that sometimes blend together and then can sometimes be very different. Have you found that in your own experience working with some of these tech companies and how they intertwine the sales and marketing, and then sometimes where those can not align?
Yeah, it's really interesting. If people aren't familiar with sales development as they describe it in the tech industry, you may have heard of like SDRs or BDRs as far as a position that people have at tech companies, but they essentially act as connective tissue between the marketing top of the funnel and the sales team, which is charged with closing deals. And in the past, the team was sometimes called telemarketing or appointment setting, and that middle of the funnel piece to make sure that the marketing translates into qualified sales. And it's just, over the last 10 years or so, there's been an explosion of focus and development in that particular connective tissue, and that's what we really focus on to optimize that process for companies. And it's for me, I just stumbled on it, and it's been super interesting to see it, you know, uh, evolve over the last 10 years, and to be at the center of something that's you know pretty cutting edge. I mean, most tech companies that get a little bit of funding will have a sales development team right from the get-go. And then when you get to the bigger tech companies, they've got huge sales development teams that are super focused on the particular duties that they have. And then, but outside of the tech industry, it hasn't really caught on for a variety of reasons, which is also interesting. So there's a lot of growth potential as well.
So you're focusing primarily on the sales portion of that, though. So from the marketing and how it gets into the sales, or are you addressing the marketing component as well?
Yeah, I mean, so sales, the if you think of it this way, the marketing team is doing brand and creating lead generation programs and doing all this stuff at the top of the funnel to create interest in the company and get somebody, either to download some content or to raise their hand and say, okay, I want to talk to a salesperson. And in the old days, you would just throw that to the sales team. And whether it's a cold lead list or kind of a medium lead list or a hot lead, you just kind of marketing throws it over the fence, and sales picks it up and hopefully, does something with it. And so sales development has evolved to connect those two in a really seamless process, and make sure that every inbound lead that you're creating through the marketing team is taken care of to the point where they may potentially raise their hand and say that they want to talk to you. And then, every red hot lead is routed correctly and it gets straight to the sales team. And then, there's somebody on the phone and on email and all these things every day doing outbound, which is what salespeople hate doing. Nobody likes doing it. And so there's this team dedicated to creating cold outbound leads and, working that process. So long-winded answer, but it's essentially this connection between marketing and sales to really optimize the funnel.
Yeah. So you don't have any disruptions in that. It's a smooth process. So
yeah,
that's
exactly.
Right. So talking about your entrepreneurship journey, I always talk about in entrepreneurship, there's always finding out like the C solution, right? So you present a problem and it's like A or B, and you're like, yeah, but is there a C solution to this? And at least in my journey, that's brought me a ton of success. And be it sleeping on a problem, talking it over with a peer or something like that, because I'm not happy with either one of the A or B situations. Have you experienced that in your journey in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I took it from the completely opposite point of view, which is bad advice. Don't create something that you think is cool and you think is like going to be the whiz bang solution that causes you to become $1 billion company. Always the better advice is what you're talking about, where if you hear of a problem that people have and they just are complaining about it constantly, and maybe there's a little bit of money behind it and they're willing to throw some money at it, start the company from there and build it back.
Yeah.
Versus I mean, I've got a list of just flops, where you try to create something that you think is cool and nobody else does, and you're sitting there spinning your wheels and wasting time.
Yeah, I was reading a book recently, and it was talking about how often if you're pitching to investors, there's a lot of VC firms and that are interested in finding entrepreneurs that have had failures before. And the reason why he states this is that you learn that things are not always on the up and up, that you got to figure out that there's you're going to get hit with obstacles and things that you run into that shape who you are and define the success later on. Would you say that some of your past failures and that have really shaped who you are as an entrepreneur and CEO now?
Oh my God, dude, 100%. I mean, and it reminds me, I think it was Tony Robbins or somebody said, you only move based on the idea that you're going to get pleasure or the fear that you're going to get pain. And I think that by trying a lot of things and self-educating as you go along, you get burned. I mean, and you experience intense pain. You realize that, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like that was just a bad idea. And if you've got some scars and some gray hairs and you're still moving forward in this entrepreneurial journey, then hey, I mean, you're probably less likely to make a lot of the mistakes that somebody would have that if they're back, just starting out, I would say. But there's also, wonder kinds or whatever they're called that just from the get-go, they're super smart. They know, they have the instinct, they can figure all this stuff out. They take in and they just have hit after hit after hit after hit. And I know that VCs and investors like those people, probably more than some grizzled, grizzled veteran who, has got an eye patch and a wooden leg. You know what I mean?
Yeah, PTSD and the war wounds and all that.
Yeah, but it's hard to find. I mean, there's only one Mark Zuckerberg out there, and there's probably a handful. My sense is that a lot of successful entrepreneurs, to your point, are people that have just made a lot of mistakes and learned from it and somehow had the intestinal fortitude to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've got staying power.
That's right. I call it arrogant confidence is what I call it, because against all odds, for some reason you keep moving forward when everyone else tells you you shouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I go back there. I've been studying history. I mean, I just can't, like, business books, like I can't do it anymore for a while. I don't know why, but I've been listening to a lot of history books, and history is really interesting because you realize, like, hey, I'm not the first person that's done this. I mean, people have been doing exactly what I'm doing like 100 years ago without the internet or any of the cool technology that we have. And it's right there to learn from. And the reason I bring that up is there's a great quote from George Washington where, I mean, George Washington, if you study, he went through hell and just kept going. And that's why he's, revered as such a great leader. And one of the things he said was, hey, we're way behind right now. We're behind the 8 ball and we're getting our ass kicked basically, but we've been here before and we've come through successfully. And I have confidence that we will again, and it was just like, exactly, if things are a complete, I don't know if I can swear, but bad situation that you're in right now. But you've been through so many in the past, you just kind of change your view and you look at it like, I've been through a lot of shit, man. And I know that I can figure this out and move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not only a conversation that you're having internally, it's a conversation that you're having with your team. Because exactly. You will encounter those time and time again in business, that you're not only having to like boost up yourself saying, no, guy, we're going to get through this, but your team as well. I think I just had one last week, as a matter of fact. So you get those time and time again. So you've been 6 years. And along that journey, I'm assuming you've had to wear different hats and grow in your journey. Can you kind of describe what you've done through your journey to wear those different hats? Because on the flip side, you see in businesses where it's not uncommon for a business to start in a year, 2 years, 3 years in, it kind of goes down because a lot of those skills or abilities that that person had that started that company don't translate well year 3, year 4, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, yeah, you know, again, I had been searching for something in my career that you know, I could get behind and get passionate about, and I kind of, you know, had the opportunity while I was between jobs, to potentially do some consulting, and that literally was the genesis of Tenbound. I realized that I had a certain experience and skill set that people would pay for, and was in demand, because it was just a kind of a rare thing. That this is, you know, 6 years ago. Now there's tons of sales development consultants that are out there, but back then it was kind of rare that somebody had actually run a sales development program, been successful at a tech company, and kind of knew what the playbook was to put something like that together. So I started picking up consulting gigs and writing playbooks, working with the executives to set up the programs, doing training, you know, helping them to hire people, and really acting as like an outside manager, you know, to help them develop this team. Um, and at the same time, you know, the there's a kind of a herd mentality in the tech industry where, you know, people look at really successful tech companies and they go, what are they doing? Let's replicate that.
Yeah.
And you know, they all have SDR teams. They call them SDR teams, sales development reps.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a confluence really of situations where I had a certain skill set, and the market was looking for people with that expertise. And you know, I got my first check and I was like, dude, this could actually, you know, maybe I don't have to go back and join the corporate world again. And so anyways, um, as we started to build templates and frameworks and repeatable advisory services, then I started to layer on people that also had an expertise to help the companies, and build the advisory side of our business. And that continues to today. It continues to grow, because people really need help in this area.
Yeah, no, I love that how you
Yeah,
started with the need for it, you know, and I think that's a
yeah,
part of a business. Knowing your past failures and your successes, and that if you were to exit your business tomorrow and you started something brand new, couldn't be the same thing you're doing right now, you think you'd have a better idea of what area to start up in?
yeah, man. I mean, do some research. That's the main thing that I would tell people. And I just laugh because, like, as a, you know, quick start and shoot from the hip entrepreneur person, I think a lot of us are just like, go with your gut, you know, do what you think is best, move fast, break stuff, you know. And if I could take a step back, I would do some research and go into like what we were talking about before. What are the problems, you know, out there? What are people complaining about? What are they, you know, willing to potentially spend money to fix? Talk to people and dig in on those. And then when you start to see patterns, then start to explore what are the solutions out there right now. How are they working? Are they getting wide adoption? And you know, if not, then you might have an opportunity. The other thing that's interesting is somebody may have already built like a prototype, and I'm in the tech industry, so you know, I look at things through that lens, which is different, specifically in like software. But you know, somebody might have already built the solution, but they are not an entrepreneur per se, and they don't have any of the other experience. They're just a technologist, and you can buy their you know, basic solution on a marketplace, and then you know, you've got a product, you know, from day one that you can start to build.
Apply your skills, your unique skills to that already existing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's dude, the world is so much different than
Yeah.
even 10 years ago, you know, where, you know, you'd have to do everything yourself and figure it all out. I mean, it's all right there. It's just, I mean, you know, the value that entrepreneurs bring is connecting the dots between all these different things. You know, computers can't quite do that yet. And so we've got a window of time where, as human beings, we can still add value in this way, in taking all these different things and putting them into a solution that the market wants.
No, that's honestly a great simplification of that, because I think a lot of people, when they think an entrepreneur, especially a tech entrepreneur, you need to be a developer. You also need to be sales. You need to understand your SEO strategy and all that kind of stuff. But the fact is, you can hire experts, consultants. You can buy, you know, existing code out there and things like that, and then apply yourself where your strengths are to make that a successful business. And I don't think a lot of people look at that. And I think a lot of that is the mindset that you go into in your day-to-day life. When you understand that you're constantly looking for solutions to problems, then it becomes more of a habit. And if you're constantly looking for, okay, how can I solve this problem? Anything in your life. It could be a long checkout line at the grocery store, right? You know, or you know, something in your house or whatever. When you're constantly challenging your brain like that, you're looking for opportunities. And I think that's an important mindset to have as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, get comfortable with uncomfortable situations, you know, because I think you know, we seek comfort, and we want to, I mean, there's a spectrum, right? But for me, definitely, it's wanting to be comfortable, kind of go under the radar screen, not ruffle any feathers and things like that, where it's really the opposite. I mean, you got to be super comfortable, like talking about your ideas and talking about the problems and things like that, and getting with people that will criticize what you're doing and give you real feedback, and really make you think and challenge your ideas. Because if you just kind of go into a bubble and keep building something that nobody wants, it's just, you just run out of cash, you know, you run out of time, and you got to get comfortable, you know, just putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about Tenbound? I know you touched on a few times, but tell us a little bit about what it is you guys do.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's a tech company, you know, is either they're building their SDR team, or their sales development program is kind of struggling. Like they lost their manager, or you know, they're just not getting enough sales pipeline and sales. And so they'll bring us in, and you know, we'll take a look under the hood and give them a diagnostic. And usually it's just a handful of pretty basic things that need to happen in order to get the program back on track. And sometimes we'll actually continue to be a fractional manager at the company for as long as it takes to help them build back or build up their SDR team. And then, you know, even expand, you know. And so, yeah, we really partner with the companies to get that pipeline and sales motion, you know, working.
Great. Well, thank you, David. So for our listeners, if they want to get in touch with you, they want to follow you, they want to hear what's going on, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, just go over to tenbound.com, tenbound.com, and get on the newsletter. That's probably the best way to keep in touch with all the different stuff we're doing.
Great. Thank you so much, David. And once again, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time on the Success Is podcast. Well, thank you guys for watching today. Be sure to like and subscribe for more future episodes of Success Is podcast. If you have any suggestions, please comment below. Look forward to seeing you next time.